All men are not created equal. When I was 4 years old, I learned that some kids have more power than others.
Hey, what's up? In this video, I'm gonna talk about all 50 divine protections in ReZero, and who the users of each one are. That's right, guys. An exclusive video about all these divine protections. Okay, I already did one for Reinhard, who has almost all of them, right? But there are a lot of people in ReZero who have divine protections, and you have no idea about it. Okay, let's go. What exactly are divine protections? Since ReZero takes place in a fantasy world, in addition to magic, curses, and authorities, there are also divine protections. Divine protection is an extremely rare ability granted by Od Laguna, the famous entity that administers both mana and divine protections throughout the world. The vast majority of people in ReZero don't possess any divine protection. However, even if you're lucky enough to be born with one, it doesn't mean it's a good blessing. Yes guys, there is good divine protection, and there is crappy divine protection, believe it or not. And guys, it's almost become a rule that whoever has divine protection ends up hiding it from other people to avoid trouble, right? There have been cases where people killed each other because they wanted to take away someone's divine protection out of envy. It's kind of crazy, but it really has happened. Now regarding their origin, the creation of divine protections was to balance the world against those in positions of authority, since the two are opposed. That is why no bishop can have divine protection, since they have authority, and vice versa. Subaru will never be able to have divine protection because he also has authority. You get the point, right?
But Baru, how exactly does a person become born with divine protection?
Well guys, it's basically luck. I mean, there's a little bit of luck involved too. It's not just luck. There are divine protections that can only be acquired if you are of a specific race or a special lineage. Example, the divine protection of wind evasion, which removes wind friction when someone runs, is normally given to mounts. Every now and then, there's an earth dragon that has this kind of divine protection. Normally you don't see a person with this divine protection because it's exclusive to mounts. However, somehow, Reinhard has this divine protection, so it seems that it's not only mounts that can have it. Of course, besides specific races, there's also divine protection that can only be acquired through a special lineage. And the only one that apparently uses this type of system is the divine protection of the Sword Saint, which is exclusive to the Astrea family. In other words, there's no possibility of anyone being born with it outside of the Astrea family, as it is passed down from generation to generation. And of course, Reinhard has it too.
But Baru, I don't have any special lineage and I'm not an earth dragon. How can I gain divine protection?
Alright my friend, get your lucky charm ready and let's see the odds you'll face. For you to be born with useless divine protection, you face a probability of 1 in 100. To be born with helpful divine protection, you will face a 1 in 1,000 chance. To be born with relatively good divine protection, you face a probability of 1 in 10,000. To win a rare item, you'll face a 1 in 100,000 chance. And to gain divine protection that is unique, the chance is 1 in a million. Now, if you are lucky enough to be born with more than one divine protection, congratulations. You faced a stratospheric probability of 1 in 10 million. Okay guys, you already know which character has more than one divine protection, right? I mean, not more than one, right? More than 10, more than 20, and of course it's our boy Reinhard. And guys, obviously Reinhard is an extreme exception, since these odds apparently don't apply to him. He has almost all the divine protections the author created, and if he wants more, he can still get them. Dude, forget it. He's not going to be part of that equation. And by the way guys, this whole thing with Reinhard creating new divine protections actually creates a pretty interesting problem. If Reinhard is able to request new divine protections that don't yet exist, like the Blessing of Salt he requested, Od Lagna will catalog them, and there's a chance some unlucky person will be born with the Blessing of Salt, which is like the worst divine protection in the entire series, man. Imagine how awful it would be to be born with that. Hey man, do you have divine protection? Yeah man, my dad's a monster, did you? Cool, but what kind of divine protection is that? No, well, it's the divine protection of salt. I don't confuse salt and sugar. Yeah guys, this can happen, thanks to Reinhard. Okay, with that said, let's take a look at all 50 divine protections cataloged in ReZero and their users. Starting with the legendary divine protection of the wind indication. User, Krush Karsten. Look guys, this divine protection is really useful. The user can tell if someone is lying to them or not. Krush made use of this blessing at various points in the story, and it was practically decisive in negotiations. No one can lie to Krush guys. Every time Subaru warned her about the cult's attack and the whale, she knew he wasn't lying, which gave her a tactical advantage. Even though she has lost her memories, she can still use divine protection normally, showing that forgetting everything doesn't make it lose its effect. Divine protection of wind evasion, mounted users, and Reinhard. This divine protection eliminates air friction at high speeds. As mentioned before, it's usually given to mounts, but even Reinhard has it. In the first season, we saw how it works. It's as if it creates an aura around the terrestrial dragons, giving them much more speed, and even breaking some laws of physics, such as climbing very steep hills. But basically that's it. For mounts, it's actually perfect. It even makes the carriages they pull completely immune to air resistance. Now, why does Reinhard have this? I don't know, man. Divine protection of the language of the soul. User, Otto Suin. Okay, I wouldn't want that kind of divine protection, guys. The user of this divine protection can speak with any animal, and even fully understand what they say. The reason it's so problematic is that most people who had this divine protection couldn't handle hearing so many living beings at once, and ended up rage quitting in real life, if you know what I mean. Apparently, when you're young and have this divine protection, you have to put up with listening to all the animals, and apparently, there's no way to turn it off. Otto's own childhood was troubled because of this divine protection, and although it is very useful to him nowadays, he suffered a great deal. For me, it would be useful if you could leave it turned off so you could, I don't know, make the cockroach that got into your house go away just by using dialogue. That would be amazing. Divine protection from the god of death. User Teresia van Astrea, Reinhard's grandmother. Guys, just like him, she was once a weapon of war in Lugnica. One of her greatest feats was participating in the war to confront the White Whale. In addition to the divine protection of the Sword Saint, she also had the divine protection of the god of death. Anyone who watched the last 2-hour video about Arc 5 knows that this divine protection is quite problematic. The user is capable of inflicting an incurable wound on the target, rendering even Ferris, the greatest doctor who ever lived, virtually useless. In battles, this divine protection certainly makes a big difference. Divine protection of the garments. User Reinhard. Okay, this divine protection is pretty meme-worthy, guys. It allows a person to choose the best possible outfit for another person and for themselves. This is the real fashion squad, man. Honestly, I think this divine protection is pretty lame, especially since fashion is relative. Just look at the clothes they wear in today's fashion shows. For the guys who know their stuff, they're killing it. But for me, there are clothes there that I would never wear under any circumstances. Imagine Reinhard choosing an outfit for me that everyone would laugh at except him and me. God forbid. Divine protection from the spirits of the earth. User Garfield. For a fighter, this divine protection makes a significant difference, especially for Garfield's fighting style. The user receives a ton of buffs. With their feet on the ground, the user gains great resistance, regeneration, and can even manipulate the terrain at will. On several occasions, this divine protection saved Garfield's life. He managed to stand up to Ram, Elsa, and even 2 very strong cultists from Arc 5. Certainly, those born with it are very well suited for combat. Divine protection of magic manipulation. User Mei Li. In the world of ReZero, this divine protection is particularly useful. It allows the user to control any Mei beast, Maju, as long as its horn is broken. Since the horn serves as the Maju's conscience, Mei Li is able to behave like a horn and ends up controlling the creature. However, despite being able to control the animals, she can't control any of the 3 great Majus, like the great rabbit and the whale. They are too powerful for her, but at least she controls the rest fairly well. Divine protection of telepathy. User Liliana. This divine protection is pretty cool because it allows the user to telepathically transmit their thoughts to other people. Of course, in Liliana's case, she uses singing, which ends up increasing the strength and range of her voice. That's why the young people in the city are so enchanted by her voice, because she's making use of divine protection while she is singing. Divine protection of arrow evasion. User Reinhard. This one, without a doubt, is one of the best divine protections when it comes to avoiding death. It allows any projectile aimed at the user to have its trajectory altered, making the user immune to any type of projectile. The guy will shoot at you and you won't be hit. The guy will shoot an arrow at you and you won't be hit either. And the best part is, you don't have to do anything. The projectile's trajectory is automatically deflected as if it were avoiding it. It's pretty broken, right guys? Let's face it. Divine protection of the blue sky. User Reinhard. Now come the blessings that only Reinhard has. Some of them are pretty silly actually, like this one. This divine protection makes Reinhard stronger under a blue sky, and that's all there is to it. He gets stronger under a clear sky. Divine protection of the weeping sky. User Reinhard. Guess what this divine protection does? Exactly, it makes Reinhard stronger when it's raining. What a surprise. Divine protection of the night sky. User Reinhard. Okay, this is getting boring, Tappei. The user gets stronger at night. Congratulations, Reinhard. You get strong in any weather or time of day. Divine protection of the first sight. User Reinhard. In a way, this one falls into that category of divine protections that are extremely useful in combat. This divine protection allows the user to instinctively know how to fight or dodge attacks they have experienced at least once, including ambushes, like this. Has he been caught in a net before? Great. Now every time they try to catch him in a hidden net, he won't get caught. It's as if his conscience knows how to avoid it. The same goes for attacks. He'll dodge them all because he knows how that attack will hit him. However, there is a weakness. If the person is trapped and has no way to escape, the divine protection will not be activated. Divine protection of the second sight. User Reinhard. Alright guys, consider this divine protection as a more OP version of the previous divine protection. It allows the user to respond to attacks they've seen at least 2 or more times with far superior reflexes, making it impossible for the user to be hit because they're basically predicting the future. Divine protection of the Phoenix. User Reinhard. This one is extremely powerful. It allows the user to revive immediately after dying. Logically, after being revived, he loses divine protection because he used it up. It's like that extra life in a video game. You die and come back once, and that's it. You don't have any more extra lives. Unlike Elsa, for example, you can be revived without any side effects. You basically get a new life. Divine protection of the Phoenix following. User Reinhard. This is just the author being a jerk. not, guys. It has to be. It's the same divine protection shown before, but with a different name. Here's the thing. Since Aldebaran can't create a duplicate divine protection for the same person, she simply created a new one with the same functionality, which, in this case, revives the user as well. Obviously, she only does this for Reinhard. That's why, after he used up the Phoenix Divine Protection in Arc 5, he gained the next Phoenix Divine Protection. It works the same way as the previous one, but with a different name.
But Baru, what if he dies again?
Well, if he dies again, he would use up that divine protection of the next Phoenix and gain the divine protection of the next Phoenix of the next. Because Aldebaran won't let him die. Divine protection of judgment, user Reinhard. It is divine protection that allows Reinhard to know what divine protections his target possesses. From a tactical standpoint, this divine protection is extremely useful. If an ordinary person had this divine protection and were to look at him, they would be shocked, because the guy has an endless list of divine protections. Divine protection of salt reasoning, user Reinhard. Another one from Reinhard's series of crappy divine protections. This one, guys, no comment needed. Seriously, it prevents the user from ever confusing salt and sugar. Like, honestly, even without this divine protection, I can't confuse them, man. You just have to look at the texture. But this divine protection works by enabling the person to distinguish the substance at a chemical level, at a molecular level. But why would I want that? I personally think it's rubbish, but Reinhard has it. Divine protection of water, user Ferris, Felix. When it comes to healing magic, for those who are doctors, this divine protection here is perfect. It allows the user to become highly skilled in water magic, and consequently in healing magic. In Ferris's case, this ability is further enhanced by his lineage, so he combined business with pleasure, and became the greatest doctor in the world. Divine protection of the spirits, user Julius. Perhaps it is one of the most balanced divine protections in the work. It allows the user to see, speak to, and be appreciated by spirits, although the user has to work hard to truly be appreciated. In other words, it's not simply a matter of being born with divine protection and not needing to train. In fact, he has to train a lot, but afterwards he earns the respect of the spirits and becomes a much stronger person. After all, the spirits are conscious and will evaluate whether the person is good or not. Divine protection of Trisection, users Mimi, Taivi, and Hetero. I recently talked about it in the recap of Arc 5. It was certainly extremely useful for Mimi's survival. Users of this divine protection are able to share all damage, fatigue, and burdens among themselves. By diluting a wound that would be fatal to one person into 3, the injured person may survive. Of course, there's a limit, but this ended up saving Mimi's life in Arc 5. Divine protection from the sun, user Priscilla Bariel. When it comes to beauty, strength, and luck, there's no one better than Priscilla. She possesses a very interesting divine protection. With this divine protection, the user greatly increases their physical strength and the buffs they receive during the day. It's very similar to Reinhard's, except his is from the blue sky. The name changes, but both become stronger during the day. Divine protection of the evaluation, user Russell Fellow and Hoshin of the Plane. I think this divine protection is really cool and extremely useful. It allows the user to see if an item is of good quality or not just by looking at it. But for items he has never seen before, divine protection cannot determine their value. It can only determine whether they are good or not. A good example was when Russell accepted Subaru's cell phone in the White Whale negotiation. He knew the phone was of good quality because of divine protection, but he didn't know its value because he had never seen a cell phone before. That's why he accepted it and kept quiet. Divine protection of the Sword Saint, user Reinhard. This one, without a doubt, is one of the most important for the story. You can only obtain it if you are from the Estria bloodline. It allows the user to unleash their maximum potential in martial arts involving swords. The user is able to see white lines as if they could discern the vector of attacks and know how and when to strike with a perfect defense or attack. Only members of the Estria family can have this divine protection, as it is inherited from their ancestors. Whoever is the current Sword Saint instinctively knows to which successor the divine protection will pass. Divine protection of empathy, unfortunately, has no cataloged users. It's similar to that thing Spock uses in Star Trek. It allows the user to feel the emotions of the person they've touched, and it's even possible for two people to understand each other through touch. That's a pretty interesting divine protection. Imagine if they used it on Subaru. They'd only feel the kid's trauma and despair. Divine protection against insensitivity, user Tiga. This character is part of the game Prophecy of the Throne. It ensures that his body does not suffer any interference from external influences, be it magical enhancement or deficiency. In other words, most debuff spells would not affect him, and this includes buffs as well, because he is immune to all of them. Divine protection of mind change, user Reinhard. This one is among the most overpowered divine protections in the series. It allows the user to change the target's mind, similar to brainwashing. When Reinhard was a child, he made use of this divine protection, and they eventually realized it was so dangerous it could destroy entire kingdoms. That's when he decided to deactivate that divine protection for good. So from the age of 4 onwards, he hasn't used it anymore. The crazy guy had to self-nerf. Divine protection of the lake, user Reinhard. Reinhard. It's about to begin, unfortunately, with the divine protection that only Reinhard has again. The divine protection of the lake allows Reinhard to walk on water without sinking, just like in Naruto. He steps on the surface and walks. Is it useful? I don't know. If I could choose, I wouldn't pick this one. Divine protection of the mist. User Reinhard. This one's good for those who drive on the road, right? The user is able to see perfectly in the fog as if it didn't exist. He can simply see through it, so it's quite useful. Divine protection of the god of war. Wielder Reinhard. Can the user of this divine protection transform into Kratos? No, just kidding. It's even less cool than that. The user is able to wield any weapon with complete mastery. So if the guy wields a spear, a sword, a bow, or any weapon, he'll always be able to use it correctly, even without prior training. It's a good way to skip the tutorial and jump right into the action. Divine protection of clouds, user Reinhard. This one is really strange, honestly. The user is able to walk on clouds. Why would I want that? First of all, getting to the clouds is quite high. Why would I want to walk on clouds if there's nothing there? Sometimes I think Odlagnia is just messing around creating these divine protections. Divine protection of lightning, user Reinhard. The user becomes immune to lightning. He will never be struck by lightning even if it is raining. And look guys, I'm also immune to lightning. Can you believe it? I stay inside my house. Wow, you're kidding, right? Divine protection of magic resistance, user Reinhard. This one is very similar to the divine protection of insensitivity that Tiga has. It makes the user immune to debuffs from magic. However, this divine protection is even better because it also makes the user immune to curses. Remember the devil dog from the first season? If you get bitten by it and have this divine protection, you won't be cursed. Pretty good, right? Now we're going to delve into a set of resistances in the form of divine protection. And of course Reinhard has them all. I won't comment further, okay? But here we go. Divine protection from fire prevention. In a fantasy world, it's very useful since the basic attack is the fireball. It allows the user to become 80% immune to fire damage. In Reinhard's case, the fireball wouldn't even hit him, but if it did, it would only inflict negligible damage. Divine protection from wind absorption, Reinhard obviously has it. It's exactly the same as the previous divine protection. The user absorbs 80% of the wind magic directed at them. Divine protection of earth's resistance. Guess what? I don't even need to comment on what this does, right? Divine protection of water reflection, user Reinhard. This one, instead of nullifying, the user reflects 80% of the water magic. It's like the thorn enchantment from Minecraft. You cast a spell on the guy, he returns 80% of the damage and only takes 20%. It's not cool to be the enemy of someone who has that blessing. Divine protection from the division of light, user Reinhard. In this one, instead of nullifying or reflecting, it shares 80% with another target. Maybe it converts into a buff. I don't know exactly because the description is very vague. Divine protection of darkness immunity, user Reinhard. Wow, that's new. I'm already using it straight up. It negates 80% of any yin type magic. Divine protection of speed, user Reinhard. He only uses this divine protection when the script allows, because apparently he forgot he had it when he tried to save Subaru from Elsa. It allows the user to move at superhuman speed, affecting even any mount he is on. It can even be combined with wind evasion. The creature becomes the Flash. Divine protection of mastery in riding, user Reinhard. This one couldn't be missing. It makes the user capable of riding any type of mount, even if it doesn't like him. And when I say any type, I mean any type. I dare say he can't even ride the Divine Dragon Volcanica, and the dragon will be forced to fly away with him on its back. Divine protection of item mastery, user Reinhard, makes the user capable of masterfully using any item they hold in their hand, even if they've never seen it before. Similar to the God of Wars, this one is very useful. If you give Reinhard an AK-47, he'll know perfectly how it works. He'll reload and fire with complete mastery just by holding it. It's almost funny. Divine protection of unarmed mastery, user Reinhard. I can already imagine you saying, but just take any weapon out of Reinhard's hand and he's easy to beat. Sorry, my noble friend, but it's the opposite. With this divine protection, the user becomes much stronger even when unarmed. Exactly, he becomes stronger because he's unarmed, and I thought I'd seen it all. Divine protection of the power of bleeding, user Reinhard. This one is quite interesting, although the trigger seems fatal since you have to injure yourself for it. It allows the user to become stronger if they bleed. And the coolest thing is that the bleeding itself doesn't negatively affect the user. That is, bleeding doesn't bring you closer to death and actually makes you stronger. This is awesome. Divine protection of immunity to diseases, user Reinhard. At the beginning of COVID, this divine protection would be extremely useful because it makes the user unable to contract any type of disease. You would never get sick. You are completely immune. I would definitely like to have this. I would never get the flu again, and I could record many more videos. Divine protection of immunity to poisons, user Reinhard. Another one related to health, makes the user immune to any type of poison. Anyone who has ever thought about poisoning Reinhard's drink know that it won't work. Divine protection of the training mastery, user Reinhard. One of my favorite divine protections, the famous Professor's Divine Protection. It allows the user to train their body and that of their students to their maximum potential in a short period of time. One proof that it works. In addition to training the 3 bandits, he also trained Subaru on the Agano If route, the revenge route. Subaru became extremely extremely stronger and was able to extract the maximum offensive potential from himself thanks to this training. Divine Protection of Mindspeak, sister users Graces and Flan. Finally, we're getting away from Reinhard for a bit. I was getting really annoyed. These two characters are servants at Felt's camp and possess this divine protection that allows them to speak to another person remotely through their mind. The downside is that it can only be used once a day. A 24-hour cooldown is a lot, so I wouldn't want that divine protection. Divine Protection of Wind, user Felt. According to Elsa, Felt possesses divine wind protection, capable of making the user reach extreme speeds, even deforming the surrounding air and achieving the feat of climbing buildings vertically. It's a very good divine protection as well. Divine Protection of Divine Gift, user Reinhard. You thought it was over, didn't you? With this divine protection, the user is able to ask for any other divine protection, and even divine protection that doesn't yet exist. Very weak, right? I even thought it was weak. Despite having the weakness that Odlagna won't always interpret what the person wants correctly, this divine protection is still the best of all because it allows you to ask for others. It's like the infinite wish of the genie in the lamp. And to close with a flourish, an honorable mention here because it's not cataloged yet, the divine protection of the room's tricks. User Camberley. The famous dwarf from the group of 3 bandits has a rather interesting divine protection. In a side story, it's revealed that he's able to get money back from prostitutes. That's right, you heard correctly. He has the divine protection of the ladies of entertainment. Tappei must have fun creating these things. What power. Future Baru here just wanted to say that I recorded this video and forgot to mention the divine protection that Master Chef Reinhard also has. It's divided into 4 others: cooking, baking, frying, and the so-called King of Flavors. For some reason, it wasn't listed on his page anymore. Go figure. In short, everything Reinhard cooks will be delicious, no matter what he puts in the pan. The guy could throw in a brick, a shoe, anything, and it would still be good. It's crazy. So, what divine protection would you have? Leave it in the comments. I want to know your opinion. And even if everything goes wrong, you can always start from 0 again.